I believe that literature should aspire to the condition of rock and roll, Larry said, punctuating his thought with an air guitar-she flourished and mock sexy tongue wag that didn't quite make the impression upon her that he'd hoped. She, Flora, the butterfly tattooed midriff rocker chick, and he, Larry, the sort of sometimes writer, somewhat afraid to commit fully to the writer identity, at least insofar as when he's at a party. And he attends far fewer of these than he used to. And even back in his misremembered Halcyon days, he hadn't really attended all that many. And someone, a woman, a potential rival for a potential woman, etc., asked him what he does for a living. He's massively uncomfortable to reply, "I'm a writer," not having actually written any books to speak of, and certainly no stories published in magazines the potential inquisitor is likely to have heard of, and so will refer dispiritedly to his day job in event marketing. Or perhaps, in rare cases, will invent a cover story whole cloth about how he trains wild animals, lions, tigers, bears, plus a series of increasingly obscure antelope, including, but not limited to, the springbok, garanguk, dik-dik, kudu, bongo, and okapi, for appearances, often comic, in American television programs and motion pictures. And in fact, it was precisely this absurd career fabrication which had garnered Larry the at least fleeting attentions of the almost contrivedly lovely Flora, ironically through a phony backstory about fauna. And though she had to believe for a second, it turned out that she was amenable and open to, and even found potentially alluring, the idea of him being a writer. That is, one who does the ridiculous but somehow romantic, in her mind, work of pushing blocks of words across pages, whether they want to be pushed or not. Albeit not a hugely successful writer as of yet. That yet is and always will be an amazingly and even delusionally hopeful word. And when he dared call himself something of an experimental writer, Flora mentioned her ex-boyfriend, ex here being for Larry nearly as hopeful a word as the aforementioned yet, who played in a series of experimental rock bands, one of which was called, serendipitously enough, the Dead Okapis. And this information, mingling nicely with 8 different kinds of alcohol, somehow triggered in Larry's mind the statement, which he'd been secretly formulating for some time now, that literature should and must aspire to the condition of rock and roll. And when Flora asked him to elaborate on this theory, he told her how he thought that words were actually just stand-ins, stunt doubles, for musical notes, how punctuation marks are actually key changes, and how his ultimate goal was to get language itself to rebel more, let its hair down, throw on a metal spiked belt and a pair of black biker boots. And here he paused, sensing that Flora was misunderstanding him somehow, thinking that he was feeding her some overcooked macho blather, some Hemingwayian bombast, which wasn't it exactly. He was talking more about the rhythms of language, the way that words bumped into each other, and really, if you were being completely honest, he was talking about fucking. How music sounded so often like sex, but books so rarely did, and by this point, Flora was more confused and intrigued by his theory, and was starting to lose interest, which Larry sensed, and the only thing he could think of to keep her attention was to suggest, "Hey, let me write a story about you." And she was skeptical of this idea, of course, but also a bit flattered, because who doesn't want to be the center of narrative focus, at least sometimes, particularly after a few drinks, and given that this guy seemed especially passionate about, if crazily off base with, his theories, she sat attentively and curiously on the couch, nursing her drink as Larry snagged her napkin and proceeded to write a story about her, a story in which Flora was cast as a singer, not just any singer, but the best singer on this or any planet, who had an unfailing memory of every song that had ever been written in human history, and the ability to replicate each of these songs on cue with perfect pitch and passion. But also in the same story, Flora lived in a world where music of all kinds had been banned. Think beyond Footloose territory and into Taliban-style musical repression or worse. And so the infinity of musical knowledge and talent that she had was doomed to remain trapped inside her angelically crooning head forever, the world criminally deprived of her almost unfathomable talent. until one day she fell hellishly ill, and in the penultimate moment of her existence, right there on her deathbed, she belted out a single, flawless note that combined not only all the notes of every song ever written, but also the spirit, tone, and feeling of every word ever penned, in every book, in every language, in every library, on every bookshelf around the globe, now across every time, past, present, and future, melding literature and music into a single, irreducible, unreproducible strand of truth. And that's the point that Larry had reached in his story when Flora, quite suddenly, snagged the napkin out of his hands, took out her cigarette lighter, and set the napkin, and in the process, the entire party house on fire. Which, thought Larry, in the brief moments remaining to him, was just about the single most rock and roll act he'd ever witnessed.